The next 45 minutes, we'll explore how AI can revolutionize marketing in the dental industry, saving time and delivering better results for your practice. First, I'm going to introduce myself. I have been in tech for the last 23 years, working in software development companies, tech startups. My experience includes building software for NGOs. We've worked with nonprofits, NATO organizations across 70 countries in the world. I'm perpetually curious about connecting companies with their tribes and their loyal customers and communities. Since 2018, I focused my efforts on the dentistry field, helping practices like yours thrive in a digital world. Today, we're going to get into AI in dental marketing. So, AI, when leveraged correctly, can save the modern dental practice hundreds of hours per year while delivering better results. This is critical, especially for team members who are often spread thin across multiple roles within the practice. So imagine reclaiming that time for your patient care or strategic growth, or even just giving you the opportunity to maintain consistent output in terms of your marketing. When it comes to acquiring new patients, several studies, including one from the ADA, that has shown the following averages. So 40% of your new patients are online driven, coming from digital channels, while 60% come from internal sources or patient referrals. As you can see in this chart, referrals still dominate, but online acquisition is a growing piece of the pie that we can't ignore. And that landscape keeps changing day by day. So if you've worked with Jameson before, you probably have seen this chart or are aware of it. Looking at online patient acquisition trends, 82% of new patients start with a Google search in terms of your online driven patients. That's a pretty high percentage. So if you're looking at where to aim your efforts, improving your rank in Google is a really good place to start. About 18% report using social platforms to discover new local services. Those vary between age groups, Facebook, Instagram, even LinkedIn. Roughly 50% of those Google searches end right at your Google business page. And so that's something that is good to be aware of. A lot of people think of their online presence in general rather than about step by step what the patient journey looks like. Here's a key insight. 90% of people who discover a brand on social media will check their Google listing to validate the reputation. So even if they do go through that channel, having your Google presence accurate and up to date is really important. About 50% of the people who end up on your Google business profile will continue to your website for additional information. We see those as patients who end up being higher quality, long-term patients, those who are already bought in when it comes to services and treatment. And so that's a key piece of that as well. So here's some really interesting facts related to AI and how that's shifting the conversation. Today, 58% of US searches are no-click searches. So what does that mean? 2 years ago, if someone did a search for a topic, could have been a dental topic like dental implants or what to expect from a dental crown procedure or something like that, they would have ended up clicking through to whatever those top results were to learn what each of those results had to say about that topic. Now AI presents an AI summary at the top of the search results, and people are finding the answers they're looking for in that AI summary and not continuing through to the actual link that's shown. So that's a big change over the past 2 years, going from no click searches to now 58% of searches. 48% of local searches end on your Google business profile. That's out of the total local searches. And so that's, again, something to consider. And we're going to get into that a little bit more later as to the importance of your Google business profile and how Google is shifting in that area. Your Google business profile is becoming more robust, and Google is building it to be something that is more uniform as an information source versus your other online presence. 5.6% of searches now go through AI chatbots. So that would be things like ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, or other tools like that. These changes mean that we have to adapt our marketing strategies to stay visible. And so that's part of what this is looking at. You'll see that a lot of the things that we're covering are wide ranging. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics related to AI, all around marketing. All right. So looking ahead, here are some of the things we're going to cover for 2026 AI do's and don'ts. So first of all, things to do with AI. These are smart ways to use AI in your dental marketing. You should embrace it for idea generation, for brainstorming, repetitive or human capital intensive processes, for personalization. That's a whole nother topic that we can cover. Video editing, like clip creation and titles, doing your full video edit as well. Photo editing and creating guides, templates, or tools for you and your team. So all these are great applications for AI that can supercharge your efficiency without compromising quality. With AI, it's very easy to get off track, to get off brand for your practice, and to generate things that aren't helpful to you. So that gets into the don'ts of AI. These are things that I would not recommend right now. They might be things in the future that improve and change. So avoid direct content generation, image generation, client or patient chats. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail. Put an asterisk by that just because there are some stats around that that are interesting, and there are probably some limited use cases where they would be okay to use. Don't use it for phone attendance or video generation. So those are things I would avoid at this moment. And we'll talk a little bit more detail about why those things can backfire on you. So first off, idea generation is one of those things that's really important and sometimes can be pretty challenging. If you, for instance, have a goal of creating a social media plan for your practice and you sit down and create a monthly plan for that of a couple of posts a week or something like that. If you have done that for any amount of time, you know that after about week 2 or 3, you start feeling like you're out of ideas. So how many of you have developed some kind of internal team for marketing where you have a selection of team members and maybe you meet for a lunch once a month to come up with ideas and to create a plan? And a lot of times what ends up happening is you have a handful of people. You might come up with ideas, but they might not all gel really well, or they may not be super tailored to what you're looking for, or they might be ideas without grounding in a actual strategy or a plan. This is where you can avoid all that. And with AI, you can replace that. So I'm going to share my screen and just go over a couple of things real quick. So these are AI tools that I think for general AI chat bots are useful. I think I put these kind of in order of where they are right now. So Gemini is for sure the most useful and advanced in today's world. And that changes on a weekly basis. It seems like they're always coming out with updates and iterations. Grok is probably number 2. It's a little bit like the Wild West of AI. You never know what you're going to get out of it. ChatGPT and Claude are useful as well for different things, different tools. So any of those really could be used for this purpose. But what can often happen is you get into a chat scenario. So let's take the example of a social media plan for your practice, and you want to create 2 social items per week for my dental practice. Create a plan. So what can sometimes be challenging is coming up with a prompt that actually delivers the result that you're looking for. Sometimes it can be a little bit hit or miss in terms of what that looks like. So a lot of times the tools are getting better and better at interpreting what your goal is, what you're meaning. And so in this case, this comes up with this whole plan over here. Dental practice social media content plan, 2 posts per week. consistently publish 2 high-value posts per week, increase community engagement, build trust, establish practice as a local health authority, and drive appointment requests. So that's a pretty good goal that we didn't even identify in the prompt. Target platforms, Instagram, Facebook. So it came up with that on its own. Weekly structure will use 2 fixed themes to make content creation predictable and manageable. So they came up with Tuesday, tip and treat. Interesting. So purpose is education and value, provides practical. So you can kind of get this sense. And now it came up with a 4-week rotating calendar, et cetera, et cetera. But what we didn't really give it is a lot of the parameters that we actually are looking to incorporate in here. So we can either go back and add to our prompt, which is a great way of doing it. So let's say that we go here and say, great, but I want to focus on direct patient imagery or team engagement. So things that really personalize, humanize our practice. And then let's see how that changes. So this is one way of doing it, would be to go through and iterate with the chat tool to come up with different concepts. And so you can see that it's changed our format to Tuesday is patient smile story, Friday is team and culture connect, week 1, transformation Tuesday, before and after photos of a successful treatment like whitening or Invisalign. Must have patient consent. Swipe to see smile, reveal link. So it gives you the CTA and everything. And then it gives you this whole thing, patient testimonial video, quote, blah, blah, blah. So in just a couple, 30 seconds, we can sit down and come up with some great ideas. We can tweak it as we go along. The other tool, which you may or may not find helpful, is if you're having trouble coming up with good prompts. This tool is from Originality AI. It's an AI prompt generator. And so for more complex prompts, it can be helpful in providing more detail to our prompts. So let's say we create a social media plan that focuses on personal interactions and engagement for my dental practice. I want to create 2 posts per week. And so this will go through what we have said, and it will try to interpret it and output a prompt that is richer. So it says, create a comprehensive social media plan for dental practice, blah, blah, blah. You can see it's about, whatever, 4 paragraphs long. So we can read over this and see if it's what we wanted. If not, we can go tweak the prompt a little bit, and then we can take that and we can put that in the chat tool instead and see if we get a different or better result. So this gives us a couple of options for improving our prompts, kind of fine tuning our prompts and figuring out what output makes the most sense to us. So we have these 2. This was the result of the prompt from the Originality prompt generator. So it gives us target audience, content themes, post schedule, engagement strategies, calls to action, ideas for interactive content. So it gives us a different output than the first one. So let's go back to the first one and let's look at this. And let's say we have 3 team members who are volunteering in this project: hygienist, front office team member, and dental assistant. Create a to-do list for each member. So now we can take it one step further and have it give us some additional details. So front office team member, the coordinator and publisher, here's what that person's role is going to be. Hygienist, educator, and on-camera expert, here's the things that that person is going to provide, and so forth. So rather than sitting down and staring at a blank sheet of paper and wondering what you're going to do for the next upcoming month, You can sit down with AI chat and come up with some good structure and planning. And if it's too complicated, then you can simplify it. If it's too simple, you can complicate it and tweak it to your goals. So that's a little preview of that. We'll look at some other things here in a minute. So the other area that I really like to use this for is for repetitive or human capital intensive processes. So a good example of this is something that we came to the conclusion of the end of last year, early this year, which is management of local listings. So with local listings, AI can automate updates across directories. So what are local listings? First of all, local listings are Google My Business, Yelp, all of the AI and voice interactive tools like Alexa, Siri, and so forth. So how your business is listed on those different directories is really important. It has a lot to do with how you rank in Google, how you show up in map results and so forth. So what we chose to do is we thought about this as a repetitive task with a lot of aspects to it that probably weren't cost effective to have a human doing on a day-to-day basis. And so we sat down and looked at, okay, if we had one team member who is an expert in business listings and they were to sit down and work on just one practice for a full month, what steps would they take repeatedly on a day-to-day basis? And so what we were able to do is we were able to come up with all the most important things that move the needle for these practices. And so this gives you an idea of that. And I'm going to share my screen and just show a little more detail what processes we came up with to automate. So in terms of automation, what I'm talking about here is automation of auditing of these metrics, automation of identifying the ideal frequency of these tasks and actions, and then coming up with a system for reminders, for reporting, and so forth on that. And so within the last month, by implementing our tool Flossy and utilizing AI for these steps, for this one practice alone, you can see all the different actions that we've taken just to optimize their Google listing profile. And when we implemented this, we had an idea that it would probably have some impact, some positive impact for our practices, for our clients, but we really didn't understand the full impact that it would have, having basically an AI employee going through every single one of our practices and daily providing updates and audits of their listings. So what happened was over the course of a period of just a few months, we saw practices like this one go for the keyword of dentures, for example. They're more of a cosmetic practice in a pretty competitive area of California. They had no ranking. 20 plus means that they weren't showing up for that term. No ranking at all for that term when we started in April. Now they're showing up in third position for the radius around their practice. It's highly populated. They're showing fifth, sixth, seventh position further out. And that's just been trending. So you can see they've had a 2,818% improvement just over that short period of time because we've been able to implement an AI tool to automate a lot of those audits and updates. Same for cosmetic dentists, which is a really highly competitive keyword. You can see a lot of yellows, oranges, and reds here. Here we're in the dark green for a large area around the practice. Dentist near me, really competitive keyword. We've seen a 129% improvement. Teeth whitening, again, you can see 110% improvement. So these are tools where, again, if we had an employee dedicated to each practice doing a daily audit and providing these daily updates to their listings, we could achieve the same result or even probably a better result, but the ROI is just not there. The cost benefit is not there. But with AI, we can do it. All right. So moving on, personalization is something I'm just going to reference briefly. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is really a whole nother session, I would say. So, what am I talking about? So, AI can analyze patient data to tailor marketing emails, social posts, or even website experiences, making each interaction feel custom made for families and adults seeking services like orthodontics, same day crowns, teeth whitening, or no prep veneers. So, if you interface with AI, and we've shown some examples of this, where we can feed the AI personalization details for patients and come up with an email campaign that previously would have just been a templated campaign where everybody got the exact same thing. Now is personalized, can reference their dog or their love for sports, a certain sports team, or any number of things like it's their birthday this week or whatever. So it can really increase the conversion rate when you're doing outbound email campaigns to your past or existing patients or trying to convert their treatment acceptance and so forth, can make a big difference. And so if you're interested in seeing more about that, we can definitely do another session where we dive into that in more detail. All right, next is video editing. So video editing is especially close to my heart because for me, video was a hobby before it was a job. And so I would go out when I lived in Colorado and I would take drone video of all the mountains and beautiful scenery. And then I would come back and it would be such a daunting challenge to go through and edit all that video, upload it, store it. Well, now we have a lot more easy tools that we can utilize for video editing. And so I'm going to give you just a couple looks at what that can look like, a little sneak peek on that. And then obviously we can go through and come up with more detailed examples in the future. But before I share my screen, these are just a couple tools that you can utilize. Each one has its own unique purpose. So Descript is probably one of those that's more full featured, full video editing tool. So if you have a lot of patient testimonial videos or you have talking head videos where you're sitting down and talking about the benefits of a certain dental procedure or your practice or things like that, it's a great tool for that. Canva has some similar tools, probably not my favorite recommendation, but if you already use Canva, it might be something to look at. Opus Clip is also something that will take like a long form or full video and cut it into shareable clips that are auto selected. And it's helpful for that. Descript does the same thing as well, but if you just wanted it for that purpose, Opus Clip is a good option for that. CapCut is great for social videos. And so if you do a lot of social videos where it's not talking, where it's just quick clips of your office or your patient experience or team events, things like that, CapCut is great for that. And they now have an auto AI edit option where you can upload your video and click the AI edit, and it will give you about 20 different edited options to pick from. And you can, pick the one you like. You can go through and make tweaks and edits to it and then publish it to social. So if you're just doing that kind of social reels and clips, CapCut is definitely my go-to, something you can use on your phone, things like that. So let's look at Descript. This is something that we use in-house and we really like it. So this is a podcast episode that we have uploaded to Descript. And so what it does is it creates a transcript of the video. So all the talking that's in the video, it creates a transcript of that. And to edit, I can really just go in here and let's say that I don't really like this paragraph. I don't want it in the video. I can just highlight it. I can remove it. And now it's cut out. So it cuts the video based on my changes to the transcript. So that's really neat. And then over here under AI tools, I can play around with remove filler words. So you can see all these underlined words. So if I go ahead and click on that, it will let me pick, do I want all of the filler words removed, just some of them? So if I go ahead and hit find all filler words, remove all, it's gone through and it's removed all those filler words. And there's other options in there like avoid harsh cuts to make it flow more smoothly. Those are things you can do. I'm going to go ahead and undo that change. for now. Okay, so the other tools that are in here are things like adding chapters. So it can go and add chapters. Or one thing that is really cool, especially if you just have a shorter clip or something like that, is this quick design. So if you have a 2, 3 minute clip, it will go through and make the cuts for you, add the layouts for you, and all of that, which is really nice. Another aspect of this that I really like is this create clips or create highlight reel. So let's say you have a longer form video, but you really want to promote it in a reel or a short. So you just go in here and click create highlight reel. You pick your layout. So let's do this one, submit, and it will go through and it pick clips from the video and create a highlight reel of those clips. So here it is. It's already done. So I can go through and see if I like it. And if I do, I can export and upload it as a reel. So the other thing that is really helpful with this is under AI tools, if I go down to draft a title, it will give me a bunch of options for a title: liability and risk and ortho treatment, understanding ortho treatment liability. Same with, if I go back and say, draft a YouTube description, and I can give it some parameters. I'll just leave that out. I'll just say, keep it short and punchy. And it will give me a YouTube description with chapters, and I can tweak it and so forth. So this just makes it a little easier than dealing with something like Premiere Pro or one of those really heavy duty video editing softwares. Just makes it easy and quick, and it makes it something that really anybody can do. I mean, there's so many different tools in here. Once you play around with a little bit, if it's something that you're interested in doing, you'll find which ones work best for you, like Studio Sound. It'll go through and optimize the sound and so forth. So something to keep in mind if that's something that is of interest to you. Okay, we're going to move on to photo editing. So photo editing is one of those things that is really, really helpful, because if you have a photo that has elements to it that aren't ideal, it can be hard to actually fix those. And having a photo that's just raw or rough and not edited can really bring down the value of your overall brand. So let's take a look at a couple options here. Share my screen again. Okay, so one of my favorite tools for photo editing is Lightroom. The reason I like Lightroom is because it's relatively simple, easy to use, and it has an app for your phone. It has an app for your computer, and it can also be web-based. It also stores your photos and lets you organize them by album. There are lots of different ones we can look at, but here's just an example of a photo that I took. If I go here to settings, I can go to edit and click auto, and it will automatically adjust the lighting and so forth. If I go to the remove tool here, I might decide, you know what, I don't think these people back here need to be in the photo. I'm just going to go ahead and remove them. Remove those people. They're gone. And then this wall looks a little rough, so I'm going to optimize that. So there we go. We have a much better looking photo already, just with a couple of changes. You can get real creative with that in Photoshop as well. If you haven't used or heard of Nano Banana update in Gemini, that's kind of next level in terms of an AI tool for this. So let me show you the same photo. Let's take a look at what we can do with Nano Banana. Okay, so we're going to upload the photo. We're going to say, clean up the wall in the background, remove the people in the background, remove the glasses from the table, and let's see what we got with this. So just with a few prompts, we can clean up that video or that image really quickly. We can also do some other crazy stuff. This was another example that I did where I can go in here and say, place the background with an infinity pool and a fire feature. So here's where you get into sort of the more generative side of it, where you can completely kind of change the look and feel of the picture. So whole nother vibe there, and you can kind of see what that can do. The other thing that's interesting as a tool in terms of that is if you go in here and let's say we upload two images like this, and we can say combine these two photos, add the person from the second picture into the scene first picture and make them full height head to toe. See what it comes up with here. All right. So not exactly perfect, but it definitely looks believable. And you can see it even has a shadow and everything added to the picture. So those are just some things with a few prompts you can go through and make some pretty interesting edits to photos. So that's something I definitely would recommend. Again, a lot of these things are things that weren't available a couple of months ago. So things just keep moving really quickly. And I would say that Google Gemini is definitely on the forefront right now. And I would expect that they'll keep that lead, especially in terms of usable or useful tools. All right. So we talked about this a little bit, but again, using AI for guides, templates, and tools is a really useful tool. So here's an example guide that he come up with. We'd like to make a schedule for a dental practice team, create short social media video clips. We have 5 team members will be making clips. Can you make a schedule for the team along with prompts for the videos? We'd like to highlight practice as a warm, friendly environment, et cetera, et cetera. So we can take that and it's kind of similar to what we did before, but I'm going to go ahead and just drop this in. And let me make sure I am sharing my screen here. Share. We'll drop it in. And we will let the magic happen. All right. So social media video schedule, 10 weeks. It has the team member names in there. Week 1 is Nathan Porter, warm, welcome, and family focused as a theme. Key message to convey as we make dental visits comfortable for everyone, especially kids. And then here's the video prompt. So you can get as specific as adding team members' names and what you want those team members to highlight and so forth. If we click export to sheets here, it'll actually send it to a Google Sheet for us and let us kind of tweak it that way as well. So similar to what we did before, just another example of that. So here are some don'ts in terms of AI. I would not recommend using it for direct AI content generation. What does that mean? Let me dive into that a little bit here. Right now, there is a big focus by Google and their algorithms on identifying AI content that meets these criteria: low effort, low quality content, scaled content abuse, which means that you're just creating content for content's sake, lack of human oversight. So all of those can get flagged as poor quality content, sort of thinly veiled as direct AI generated content. And that can really hurt your visibility in search using those types of approaches. So definitely avoid auto generated content for anything that's public facing. 71% of content right now online in the last year has been identified as AI generated content. When that is detected as direct generated content, it's detected and downgraded in search rankings. So if you have an interest in remaining visible in search or optimizing your visibility in search, don't use it for blog posts, don't use it for services pages, descriptions, about pages, bios. Avoid direct AI generated content. Now, there is another category of content, sort of a hybrid, where it's with human oversight, with proper citations and sources, with multiple iterations, where you can get around some of that. But for the most part, just a good rule of thumb. So Google content standards. Google prioritizes content that demonstrates experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. This is known as the EEAT score. Those are just some things to be aware of. In 2018, there was a YMYL medic update. So it affects healthcare sites not offering EAT content or low value content sites as well. So low value content sites saw a loss of up to 30% of traffic. There's a lot that kind of goes into that. There's citations, there's the length of the content, there's the uniqueness of the content, and so forth. So those are things to be aware of. The spam update. So in 2025, August, Google came out with a spam update to directly battle low quality AI generated content and officially went and removed hundreds of thousands of pieces of low quality content from their index. So here's what you should focus on. High value, high quality content. Number one is authentically human written from the perspective of your practice. That's what we really focus on in our content marketing. Two is 1,000 to 1,500 words is the optimal range for that content length. Three is cited sources, including clinical studies, professional journals, et cetera. You need that if you want to show up as an authoritative source on subject matter. Four is bonus, original, authentic photography or video. Having those are definitely helpful. And then five is cross-linked with internal, external related resources. So those are objectively things that help you to have high quality, high value content. Recommended schedule. So one, low density competition. So if you have an area where you're fairly rural, you don't have a lot of competitors, 2 to 4 high quality content per month is recommended. If you're in a medium density, medium competition area, 4 to 8 high quality content items a month is recommended. And then if you're a high density, high competition area like Chicago, New York, places like that, 6 to 10 high quality content items per month is recommended. The reason for that is you're directly tied to the level of competition that you have in your area and also the quality of that competition's marketing strategy. And so that's kind of our recommendation on that. If you've seen, there's so many different dental marketing companies out there. These I'm just highlighting as companies that do use plagiarized or AI generated content as their primary content for websites. So the reason you want to avoid that is if Google sees plagiarized content on your website, which is duplicate content, content that exists on 50 to 100 other websites verbatim, it sees that as low value, no value, and it is going to look at whether it can identify the original source of that content. And then all the copies of that, it's going to discount as no value. AI content, which is what about half of these companies tend to use, is content where they just feed it, a prompt or a series of prompts for every website, and it generates that content directly. They don't have human oversight, editing, revisions on that content. And again, it has a real similar effect to plagiarized content. AI image generation. So as of now, AI image generation kind of falls in my mind under the same category as stock photography or something like that. Some of it's pretty good. Some of it's pretty bad, but all of it looks inauthentic these days. And some of it is really, really bad. So here's an example of a actual post that went out on the Queensland Symphony Orchestra page, Instagram page. And, the generation that we have today has a finely tuned BS meter, highly developed ability to detect dishonest or manipulative messages and marketing efforts due to growing up in a constant barrage of advertising or digital natives, as we sometimes call them. So if you take a look at this picture, the more you look at it, the worse it gets. There's wrong number of fingers on hands. It looks like he's wearing a dress as well as her on the bottom half. The orchestra is in the audience behind the participants. So it sort of screams, inauthentic. And so that's something to avoid in terms of AI image generated images. Client and patient chats. So what we see is there have been a lot of studies done 89% of people say that they see interacting with an AI chat as a barrier as opposed to a benefit or a customer friendly option. And so in general, I would say this is something to avoid. There are certain situations where an AI chat might be a reasonable application, things like outbound appointment confirmations or reminders if done in a thoughtful way. But as far as the first patient interaction on your website, I definitely would not recommend based on where it is right now. A phone attendant. So again, one of those things where people view an AI phone answering service as a new patient as a barrier to getting to the resources that they're looking for. Might be convenient for you, but it's not viewed as positively by the patient. And again, it's something that if you have a really narrowly defined application, like an outbound appointment reminder call or something like that, makes sense, but not for that first point of contact. And then finally is video generation. Again, sort of similar to photography. It's one of those things where the generation is just not there. It's not viewed as authentic or engaging as a real video. People really are looking for authentic interaction. And I would say as there is more AI generated photo, video, directly generated content out there, the more that the authentic human created content is going to stand out. And so your effort will be rewarded if you continue kind of down that path. So that use AI for optimizing your process, use AI for optimizing your planning, for strategy, for idea generation. Don't use it for direct content generation. So I hope that's been helpful. You can always reach out to me or our team here. My direct email is nate@jmsn.com. And other than that, I thank you for attending, and hopefully this was interesting or helpful to you. And let us know if there's anything we can do to help you out in the future.